And then we didn't make it there today, but the abdominal angiogram for the bifurcation and for the runoffs when we do the pictures of the legs, okay? Super simple. Should be. Better be. All right? The biggest thing is, I moved that the other day to do something. I don't remember what it was. And patient is a little low on the bed. I'm going to have to kind of get him all the way up right now. So for our abdominal angiogram, remember that our position is going to be in straight AP. So that's pretty simple. Should be pretty simple. Straight AP. And we want our position just above the renals with kind of the center. Okay, remember that this one is where we're going to put the pigtail above the renal arteries, and we're going to do the power injector with 15 for 2 or 20 for 2 to look at the takeoff and look at the aorta from about here to here. Okay, we want to center so that our renal arteries, we see those nicely on both sides like the images that we saw today. Now, when it's time to do selective, and we're going to do the left renal, I'm going to be one on this side. I always have to help myself. All we're going to do is come down a little bit, but we are going to move the patient over a little. Because remember, we want this kidney, we want to be able to see this kidney completely in our image. So we want that centered up. So we wouldn't be in the center of the aorta anymore. The image or the projection is a straight AP. Pretty simple. That's for your left renal. Now when we go to the right renal, that's when we do LAO 15 to 30 degrees. And anywhere in between there is going to be fine. Okay? We also would want to try to center our image so that we get the whole renal, whole kidney, and we see, of course, the takeoff, and it's a nice centered image for that picture. Okay? So that's 3 views, should be pretty simple. Right renal, LAO, 15 to 30. Move your patient, shift your patient over a little bit, be at that renal level, have the renal artery in the center. And you can see how I'm a little off there, but when I go into that skew, I do have to kind of move the patient over a little bit. For the left, straight AP, center up the renal, the whole renal artery, the kidney, so we can see everything. And for the abdominal, a little bit above, not a lot, just a little bit above, but still straight AP. Okay? Now, when we get to our peripheral pictures, we're going to do an abdominal aortogram a little bit below the kidneys. So we're going to pull that pigtail down. We're going to talk about this in class next week. We're going to pull that pigtail down below the renal arteries, but above the bifurcation of the iliacs, okay? And so we would need to adjust, bring the patient down, center that area that we want to take a picture of. And it's in straight AP, okay? Now, we couldn't do it with this system because this C-arm does not move. But when we are really doing leg images, because another picture we're going to do is called a bolus chase. And we're going to run all the way down to the toes. We're going to do a power injection of about 8 for 10, total of 80, or 10 for 10, total of 100. And the table, we're actually going to move the table with a hand control. And we're going to run all the way down the feet. We're going to talk more about that in lecture time as well, that kind of an image. So in the peripheral labs, as I've already mentioned, those C-arms come from the ceiling. And a lot of labs, even the peripheral, not being peripheral, they hang from the ceiling. They're not floor mounted like this one is. And so you can actually swing this C-arm out to the side, that side or this side. And so that way you can, because you see we're stuck, that's as far as we can go down because of the table in this kind of a setup. But with the newer systems, as I said, we can scan all the way down to the legs. With the larger image intensifier, we can scan both legs at one time. With this one, we may, depending on the size of the patient, with this smaller image intensifier, we may not be able to see both legs at one time. And so we'd actually have to inject, run down one, that would be some contrast and some x-ray exposure, and then we'd have to come back up, inject, and run down the other. That would be more contrast and more x-ray exposure. So with that larger image intensifier, they have gotten away from that. So now, with that situation and being able to swing the C-arm out, we can take those pictures, okay? All right, so that is the last of the images for our vascular class, okay? Now, let's come on back here. Do I have a volunteer to let me Doppler your pulse in your foot? Tia wants to do it? Okay, Tia.
I want to know what that was like.